Good morning. I'm Mike Lepore, owner and educator of The Talking Camera, and this is The Morning Cup, a show where we talk about coffee, cameras, and creativity. This show is proudly brewing Recess Coffee, and today we have amazing guest, Will Cadena. He is a industry leader photographer and also educator, and today we're going to talk about how that journey has brought him here today. So let me introduce you without further ado, Will Cadena. Will, how's it going?
Doing amazing, man. I mean, I feel a little bit of jet lag. I've been traveling for the last month. Yeah, so it's been crazy. So it's all
A,
good things.
a
But
lot
yeah,
of
I'm excited
traveling.
to be on the show, man. I got the coffee, which is awesome. I just had it. It's actually very good. So espresso, good choice. Actually, I bought a coffee grinder
Hmm.
just to have this coffee.
It's worth
So
it to grind your own coffee, enjoy the
yeah,
beans, and nothing better than fresh coffee from Recess. So let's dive into
yeah.
it real quick with some rapid fire, just so anyone who doesn't know you will get a chance to know you real
Oh
quick.
boy.
So Will, where's home base for you?
So home base is New York City. The Big Apple. Times Square. If you guys don't know where that is, look it up on the map. But yeah, I'm based out of New York City.
What do you
Born and raised
specialize
in
in?
Brooklyn. What I specialize in is building relationships. That's what I specialize in. Building relationships.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's what I do. So before I was specializing in relationships, I was a photographer, and in the last year and a half, I really got involved with more videography. So I've been doing
Okay.
that a lot as well, which is great. I'm sure we're going to get into that later on, but yeah, we do commercial advertising, marketing campaigns, corporate America. We have several different divisions. I have multiple team members that go out for us. And for the last 2.5 years, we got into the fitness world. So we do some major bodybuilding shows in the Northeast. So
And
we're
your
one of the
your
largest
wife's a
leagues
bodybuilder too, right?
that she is. She's a bodybuilder. She's a bikini competitor. So
Okay.
she's been doing it for, I think, in the last, what, 7, 8 years now, about. Yeah.
Wow.
So she's the one that kind of pushed me into doing this, which was pretty cool, and several other people. And one thing led to another, and yeah, we actually take charge of the Northeast, which is pretty cool.
How long have you been an educator?
I think it was back in 2013. Yeah, 2013 I started. I was kind of like pushed into kind of doing it in a way in the beginning through a friend of mine, Hugo. He was actually one of the sales rep for the company as well. So yeah, one thing led to another. I gotta admit, my first one, I think I bombed it because just like anything else, when you're first starting, you don't even know. It's always easier to sit in the audience and you're like, well, I could teach that, or I could talk about that. But when you're on there and you have to perform, that's a whole different ballgame. So
Right.
I think that 2013 was my first one. So
So how did
yeah, so
because we've chatted about this a couple years ago, and you mentioned to me that you weren't originally planning to be an educator. So how did Hugo really
no.
talk you into becoming an educator? What was the drive that was like, you know what, I should do this?
Well, the thing is obviously growing up in the industry, when I got into the industry when I was 13 years old. I'm 39 now. So how I was trained growing up was through my uncle and his partner and other team members. So in a way to grow teams, we had to train each other. And when I started doing more of my own stuff, corporate America, commercial work, and stuff like that, I had to build my own teams. So every time when I went to go teach someone, people are like, "Oh my God, this actually clicked. I learned so much from you." And then Hugo, he used to come on site with us a few times. He's like, "Dude, he's like, you're very good in what you do, and when you teach it, people pick it up in a heartbeat, and which is great." And especially after he was speaking to the new team members, and then he kind of proposes, like, "Listen, dude, you should speak." I was part of the PPGNY, PPA chapter of Professional Photographers of America, and there was great opportunity because they were looking to have newbies come and speak, talk about what they do. And one thing led to another, and I had the opportunity, and I spoke about what I did, and that was it. I mean,
You were
that's
hooked. So you touched about how
perfect.
you were 13 and your uncle, you
Yeah.
were working with him, and your uncle played a huge role in you becoming a photographer. So tell us a specific memory that your uncle inspired you the most to really pick up that camera.
So yeah, quick story. I can never forget. I was in Manhattan in front of this church. I believe it was like a few blocks away from one of the bus terminals. So one of the photographers, he was a PJ photographer. This is during the film days. So can never forget. It was 35 millimeter. He took out the case. He's like, listen, the photojournalist is not coming. He got in a car accident. So he's like, I hope you've been paying attention.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So he took out the Pelican case. Can never forget, Pelican case, two bodies, 4 lenses in it, and that was it. So I was like, holy shit. So, mind you, I think I was like 15 years old or something like that. And I was like, what? And this is during the film days. No digital film days.
You gotta nail that.
So I was like, yeah, so we had to nail it. And was it the best job ever? No. Did I shit my pants? Not technically, but I almost did. But it was like, but it was awesome because it was like, it's not like these days. Like these days, you take a picture, you see the image right then and there. This we had to wait like two weeks to see those images if it came out or not.
It's funny because my uncle's a photographer too, and I originally never planned on doing photography. My memory was he brought me in a dark room and I helped him develop film, and then I didn't touch a camera until 10 years ago, and I'm 37 now. So like mid 20s that I start, it's a wild story. Anyway, let's talk about your photography in general, because you use vibrant colors, high f-stops, really bold compositions. Can you talk about the creative process and how you come up with your ideas for your shoots?
I mean, like, you already know I do so many different things. I'm very versatile. So
well, I know everyone else wants to know.
Yeah. So let's bring up, for example, let's talk about wedding photography, because I feel like majority people do wedding photography. It's a great way, because when you do wedding photography, you're doing product photography, you're doing commercial photography, you're doing lingerie photography, so on and so. So wedding photography, I think, for me, when I go into it, is most importantly is finding out what the client wants. That's the most important thing. What is their style? What are they looking for? So for me, going back to that question, it's hard theory wise, but if for example, if it's a commercial shoot, let's say for a suit company, what are they trying to execute? Do they want like a Manhattan city background? Do they want like greenery in the background? What are the color tones? So that's more of the mindset on it. Do they want more architectural stuff into it? Now the question is, do they want more airy, not so much flashy? Do they want very contrasty images? So there's a lot that goes into it. So that question that you asked is very general.
You really take your clients and you really itemize down what's most important to them when you go into a shoot. So that way you can present them an idea and say, look, this is my idea. This is where I want to shoot. This is how we're going to make it look. And they'll just be like, yeah, dude, that's great.
Yeah. So it's like no different from being in a relationship. I'm sure everyone has been in a relationship in their life in some way or another. So if you're just there and you're talking about yourself and just you, and you're not listening to the partner or the person you kind of want to spend time with, or, you want to, you want to date, it's not going to work out.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that we do is we really get to know who our clientele is and what they want, what are their needs. So in other words is find out, what the problem is, solve whatever issue that they're having, guide them into that process.
I love that.
And execute it. So, we don't want to be the hero. We just want to make sure we could guide them. And once you guide them and make them shine in who they are, how can they not come back to you? And that's always the goal. So having recurring clients coming back to you is the best. So instead of having hundreds of clients, I'd rather have 20 great clients and that's it, and have them keep coming back for more. So, and that could be anything. It could be weddings, it could be portraiture, it could be whatever it is. So a lot of our recurrent clients are like, we originally got from wedding photography, that we really got to know who they are. And they were either in the corporate field, in the medical field, whatever it is. And they got us involved in what they do for a living. And from there, we tap into that circle. So,
That's
as long
awesome.
as you give a client a great customer experience, they're going to recommend no matter what the case is.
You travel, you travel a lot,
Yeah.
and with
Yeah.
all your sponsors, your equipment, your team, and your wardrobe. This dude dresses to the nine every time I've seen him. So I need to know, what is the most challenging aspect of traveling with so much gear, all the people, making sure everything arrives to your destination, and what do you do if it doesn't?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that question asked a lot. So for example, let's use my last trip. February 3rd, we left, and we finally came back home on February 26th. So we were gone away, and we were traveling with different countries. So we were traveling with one, two, three cases, and that was mixed in with clothing, and also majority of it was gear. So one thing's first is we put air tags everywhere. So that's one. Two, anything that's really expensive, like for example lenses or cameras that I know I cannot rent out at at a local B&H or Adorama or whatever, photo care, that stays on us with the whole time. So definitely a backpack. So for this particular trip, we traveled with three lenses, two bodies on one backpack. My other team member, Joey, he was traveling with two bodies and multiple lenses as well. So we always have two sets, no matter what the case is, because God
Awesome.
forbid something happens, we have that. Now the question is regarding stands and umbrellas or modifiers and stuff like that. That actually goes into the check-in case or our carry-on. So majority of the time we have everything in our carry-on. So as for stands, we use like these little nano,
Mm-hmm.
what is it called, nano pods, whatever. So we use that, but we try to keep things as light as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, it's great to have all this equipment and gear and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you don't know how to use it or what you're trying to accomplish, it
Yep.
doesn't matter. As we all know, you could have a medium format camera, you could have the top of the top, but you could easily do something really cool just using your cell phone.
Yep.
So what is the reasoning behind this? So for us, so for me is travel light. I regarding clothing, yeah, anything that's Lululemon, I mostly I love Lululemon, by the way. My
Did your
my
wife
wife
get
got me
you?
hooked.
Yeah, I had to
She
like.
got me, yes, she got me hooked onto it. Like this is all Lululemon right now. I mean, this is casual, but yeah. So I love it because you can roll it up. It doesn't get wrinkled. Take it out, no big deal. But
Awesome.
I think yeah, these days I really travel as
Travel light
more like
and
neutral
have it
tone.
compact.
Yeah, so neutral tones, so I could throw it into the wash real quick if we had to. Like we did laundry 3 times on a trip, and literally the clothes was enough for about 7 days. So and that was easy. But if you had multiple different colors, and that's gonna take a
Yeah.
lot longer to do your laundry. So yeah, I try to keep it as compact as possible. But and also I use the clothes to wrap up some of the equipment to make sure it's safe as
So
well. So
I want to
yeah,
bring it back
and we travel
to
with West and flashes. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to bring it back to my sponsors and talk about coffee for one more minute here, because the show
Right
is
here, this.
proudly sponsored by Recess
Yeah.
Coffee. So, out of all your travels, where have you had the best coffee so far?
I mean, so far, listen, I'm not trying to be biased, but I'm Colombian. So when I go to Colombia,
Right?
it's right there. Actually, my uncle lives in Colombia, in Medellin. He's actually a former photographer, as commercial photographer. And yeah, he makes this amazing cappuccino that my wife and I love. I mean, it is so good. So we always look forward to having that. But yeah, mind you, the fields are right there. So coffee is beyond fresh.
Right.
So we get it from there. But yeah, so in Colombia. What about you?
So, I haven't traveled as much as you, but my last trip I went to Jamaica and I had fresh Blue Mountain coffee, and I've never experienced coffee that fresh before, and it was mind blowing. Now,
Yeah.
I think Recess does a fantastic job, and this is just as good.
No, seriously, I know it's a sponsor, but it is very good for
I,
it.
I
So
wouldn't I
you
wouldn't
can,
give people bad coffee.
yeah,
That's
no, it's very
can't do
good.
that.
When you ask me what would I like, I'm like this is very good. So and I like it has that the code on there, espresso. I'm definitely gonna be ordering from them. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Tell
I
your
love coffee.
friends, Recess
So
Coffee.
you can't go wrong with that.
So, as the mentor of the next generation of photographers, what are you hoping to inspire these next generation of photographers to take away from your classes? Like what's your goal?
I mean, the goal is for them to make money. I mean, just like anything else, when we get into the industry, we want to go to classes that are sexy, that are fun, that like, classes that always sell out real quick are lighting classes or
Mm-hmm.
boudoir classes or anything that's sexy. But I know it's very important to learn the business. Like if I had to backtrack again, I mean, I was very fortunate when I got into the business. It was through a family business, but I wish I would have educated myself more on business on that instead of so much of the technical part about it. So these days I've been teaching more about business, even for my photo walks or my lighting classes, or I'm always teaching business within it because it makes people really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want them to, as soon as they leave the class, I want them to make money right away. I want them to be open minded. So I've been very fortunate and honored that I've been teaching not only domestically but globally regarding business, which is really really freaking cool. And I love the fact when I get a message either on Instagram or Facebook or an email like, "Oh my God, Will, thank you so much for sharing that. That was a hidden gem that I didn't think about, and I made so much money out of it." And they're saying like it was so worth it, taking your class for the price ticket for it. So for me, that was the biggest, that's the biggest thing. I want people to leave and make money.
Right.
There's nothing like when you make money and you actually go and take your family on vacation, and you don't have to worry about, oh, am I gonna book another job?
Yeah.
So that's always the goal. So yeah, so for me, I think that's it. I want people
I
to
love that.
leave, be inspired, be inspired. That's great to be inspired, but also take action in what you're learning and apply it. Most importantly.
I definitely
So
would say
yeah.
that after taking one of your classes, I was hungrier and wanted to really take what I learned and applied it and use it in a way because it wasn't just here's something we're doing pretty that looks cool on camera. It was something that
Yeah.
was sellable, repeatable, something that made sense and why you were doing it for the client and for the job. It was really nice. So, to touch further on that, how has teaching photography helped you master your own craft?
Oh yeah. So I mean, still to this day, I still take workshops. I go out and pay for workshops. Even from some of my friends are in the industry that are educators. I literally like for example like Peter Hurley. He's a headshot photographer, Wisconsin Pro, Canon ambassador, EOL. Like when he when he sent me a message like, "Hey, did you just sign up for my class and you paid full price for it?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, it's at the end of the day, I'm investing in myself.
Right?
So can we get a discounted rate for taking our friends' workshops? Yeah, we can. But at the end of the day, I know one, I'm supporting a friend.
Yep.
Two, I know I'm going to get my money back because now I invested in it and I know I have to learn this.
Exactly.
So for me, it's all about educating yourself. So when I'm teaching, I'm learning from the students. And when I'm shooting my own jobs, when I'm going on location shooting, I'm also thinking about if I went to go teach this, how would I teach it? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very particular when I shoot now, and I kind of slow down dramatically, even though I speak very quickly and very high pace. I'm constantly thinking about how, if I'm photographing an assignment, if I went to go teach this, how would I teach this? And it goes vice versa. So when I'm teaching,
Mm-hmm.
how would I be able to execute it better for a client of mine?
What is something that being an educator taught you that you really never expected that it would teach you? A lesson that you learned.
The lesson I learned as being an educator, um, never talking about money. Never
All
talking
right.
about money. So yeah, that backfired on me on a work actually on a workshop. So because realistically, everyone lives in a different city, different towns, and stuff like that, and you know, looking back at it now, I just wish I had a better response on it. These days, I do talk about money, what we charge, and stuff like that, but I already know how to, I guess, how to respond back to someone that they purposely create detours. I
Mm-hmm.
learned over being an educator, not only as an educator, but learning from other educators and business. At the end of the day, we create our own detours. We always make excuses for whatever it is. So it's like, for example, saying, you know what, I never have time to work out, or I never have time, to spend time with my family. You could have time if you focus on that or you
Right.
allocate the time. So
Exactly.
it's the same exact thing when it comes to business. So, we all make excuses. I make excuses. Like I should be working out more, but I don't. But also I should not be drinking liquor because that will help me lose a little bit more weight. But
Right.
again, I still do it. So I think for me, I think at that period of time, I wish I never brought that up. So I learned real quick because that backfired really quickly. It was
Hey,
pretty embarrassing actually.
you have
Yeah,
to make mistakes once to learn to never do it again. I love making
exactly.
mistakes. I mean, I don't love it, but I love the life lessons it teaches you. So
Yeah,
that's really what it
yeah.
comes down to is those life lessons.
And that's you have to give your permission to fail. So
Hmm.
that's yeah, this is all about learning.
I want to talk about AI because it's a really hot topic right now. And I want to get your opinion on how AI is changing your workflow as a photographer and educator, and what your predictions are years to come of what it's going to do to our industry.
I mean, it's been around for a while, as we all know. It just there's it's funny. Like let's use what was it, Chat GPT? I'm like, it's been around for how long already? It just now it's like really a wave because people are talking about it, on YouTube, social media, people using it for presentations. So at the end of the day, we have to just embrace it. It's just like, for example, just like when film before digital came into play. When digital started coming out, people were like, "Oh, I'm never going to use that. Oh, it's going to kill the industry." Blah 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 blah. And still to this day, people, "Oh, well, back in my day, you can talk about back in your day, whatever you want, but it was changing." So if you're not embracing it and using it to supercharge your life, your career, your business, you know, for example, let's talk about cell phones. Cell phones came such a long way. I'm always on the phone regarding some kind of enhancing myself in some way or another, educating myself on something. So AI is here to stay, and this reality of it is we're going to be losing jobs, but is also going to drive people if you're willing to work for it. Will help you think outside the box how you can really take advantage of it.
Right.
So it will create new categories and new divisions or new job opportunities with AI. But it's not going anywhere. I mean, I
Yep.
embrace it. I use for example, I use Aftershoot to call my images and also to edit certain kind of job assignments that I have. It saves me so much freaking time. So like for example, we could use like the bodybuilding stuff. Sometimes we photograph 15, 20, 50,000 photographs sometimes on a weekend because we're photographing so many
Right.
competitors, and
It's
sometimes
just
we need it.
culled. You just cull it in
It's just
minutes.
cold.
That's
Yeah, so you have
it's
to teach
so
it.
awesome.
Yeah,
Now, for me,
yeah, which is really cool.
I'm a little worried because I've had clients who are like, you just have a camera and you just click a button, right? And it's slowly becoming more and more. All you have to do is click a couple buttons, and creating that new value is what we're going to have to learn as we move forward. And that's really where my headspace is how do we create value in this industry with these new tools? And that's where my focus is right now. um, it's just crazy. It's mind blowing what it does. And
Yeah, but it is a tool.
right,
Yeah, it is a
it's a tool.
tool. Yeah, it is a tool. Just like your camera is a tool, your lens is a
Hmm.
tool. At the end of the day, it's the person behind it. Just like a chef. The chef could have the best knives, best pots and pans, but you go into that restaurant for what reason?
The
So
food.
if you create a great experience, the experience, the great, you have a great waiter, that all plays a very big factor. So if you have all those elements involved, then you shouldn't have an issue.
Right.
I mean, you're always going to run into some kind of detour issue, but at the end of the day, if you have all these elements or in play, or you have your business organized in that way, technically you shouldn't run into so many issues. You're always going to run into some kind of issues, but you learn from it. So,
Yeah,
I mean, every day I gotta admit, every day I mess up on something. Every job I go
it
on and shoot,
happens.
I drop the ball. There's always something, but the goal is not to make it known, and also to learn from that.
Right.
So, and that's the goal. So,
All right, so
yeah, you get some good questions,
I
man.
have one more question for you, and we're gonna wrap it up.
What's up?
So, can you share? This is gonna be a tough one. Can you share some tips for photographers who are looking to build relationships with brands and companies, or starting their own educational platforms?
Uh, Yeah, that's pretty hard. You know what? I notice what I see a lot is in the industry, there's people that want to teach. That is awesome, but I think people just want to, instead of, when you're born, you know, you can't even crawl yet. So crawl first, learn how to walk, then run, and so on. People just want to just start running right away. Just no different from, you know, people want to be a photographer. Like I'm sure you've seen it. Like we see it on group sites that, people, I want to be a photographer. I'm gonna buy a camera lens and I'm gonna go shoot a wedding right away. And then they start asking questions on social media. What's the best lens to use to do a portrait shot? I have a wedding this weekend.
I love those.
Yeah, but you know what? It is what it is. I get it. People are excited, but it's kind of like, on a
Pace
plane.
yourself.
Are you gonna fly a plane right away and by yourself? No, you're gonna crash and burn. So I think so I think is educating yourself as much as possible. Learn, apply it, take action on what you're learning. If it's working, keep applying it. Because everything these days that I actually teach is actually, I use the fitness division as a great example because I had to build that business from scratch.
Right.
No one knew who we were. We had to go into it. People said, you know what, you're trying to move the wall of China. There's no way you could do it. And next thing you know, we're slowly moving the wall of China, and we became like more of the luxury media content studio in our industry, which is pretty wild.
That's awesome.
And so at the end of the day is, learn as much as you can, apply it. And, if you could actually do this full time, awesome. And now the other question is, well, will I really want to do this full time? But I also have a full time job. Still do your full time job and do this as a part time gig. And if you could literally make the same amount of money, which realistically, you're not making the same amount of money, whatever you're making as a full time career, you should be at least do triple between insurance, healthcare, going on. You know, if you could do that part time, then you're succeeding in it in every way. And then it's cool for you to teach about it and what you're doing. But I don't feel also, should you teach only if you're doing this full time? No, you should teach as well if you're doing it part time, as long as you're making money and you're being true to yourself.
Exactly.
Because as we know, you don't want to be like social media, having these filters and creating this fake aura, which we see all the time.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I'm not that active on social media, because we don't need to be on it. To talk about what
busy.
we're doing.
You're actually a person who works in the industry still and not just teaching. And that's what I love about you, is that you're actively making a career in photography, and then you also do education. It's not your main focus, but it's something that you're like, I got this, and I want to help. I want to help the community. So, with all that being said, I just want to say thank you, Will, for coming on to the show. It's been a great morning, and thank you again. I'm sure we're going to see more of you here in the future. Everyone, Will Cadena.
Pleasure, guys.
Bye.